Where have the Texans added the most depth? Where are the areas of concern? What's the latest on Jimmy Ward plus the show announcements? Go inside the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize.
Hell of a ball game. Hell of a ball game. You hear this probably 600 times already since it concluded. The two best words in sports, Game 7. We will have one of those in the NBA on Sunday. I'll be in Arizona. I'll be enjoying myself, getting some much-needed vacation as camp approaches. And right now, when it comes to camp, we're starting the 23rd of July. We are less than 40 days away from that. A month and change. Big show announcement for tomorrow. He created a hell of a lot of emotion, hell of a lot of really, really mean words, courtesy of the people online. I don't think it bothered him too much. I don't think it's anything new to him. But we will ask the man himself, and we will check in with John McClain tomorrow at 10:30. So get your stuff ready for old John McClain. Look at him huffing and puffing up to the sidelines. John McClain will join the show tomorrow, fresh off of his notion that the Texans have kind of changed the way they do business around here with the signing of Damon Arnett. He says Bob McNair would have never allowed this to happen. That is a fact I think we would all agree with. And he says things have changed. Maybe he didn't like the tone that he said it with, but we'll talk to John, get some clarity on that, check in on him, and see what he's up to. He'll join the locker room tomorrow. So get your comments ready. For the general, we'll hear what he's got to say. I want to focus on this episode. I want to focus on depth. And the reality about the NFL is a lot of teams, if no injuries happened, they'd be pretty good ball clubs. But what separates a good team from a bad team and a great team from a good team is depth. You're always going to have injuries. We saw the Texans last year, and we see it every year. We see them have to play without guys. They had to win a game without C.J. Stroud 2 seasons ago. They had to call on Case Keenum. They had to try to make it work without Nico Collins last year. There was times where they didn't have any corners. There was one game where I think they only had 2 healthy linebackers. Offensive line, we've seen depleted offensive line. And it's not really, injuries can be an excuse, especially when they're significant. But for the most part, it's kind of a league-wide thing. It's a dangerous game, and guys get hurt. And the one thing, the phase where the Texans are now, as opposed to when DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caserio started, is they need to have a deep roster. When DeMeco and Caserio first got here, they just needed to put together a formidable starting lineup. And that was really the task. Once they got the assets, once they got the cap space, that was what they had to do. But now they got to improve their depth. And I want to go through each position, and I want to touch on whether or not on paper heading into camp, the Texans have improved their depth in those areas. And we're going to start with the most polarizing position group of them all. This statement has been true for the entire duration of the Houston Texans franchise, and that's the offensive line. Do the Texans have more or less offensive line depth this year as opposed to last year? I think the answer is more. Now, they had an awful offensive line last year. They might not have improved that from a personnel side in the starting lineup. We don't know yet. We don't know how they're going to be coached. But when it comes to depth, they got a hell of a lot of guys. Now, they might just be guys, JAGs, JAGs, But as far as the depth, it's much better. It's much better. We don't even think Drew Scruggs is going to make this team at this point. Last year, he was a starter. You have multiple options at tackle. You really didn't have that last year. The interior was a disaster. They kept putting Shaq Mason and Kenyon Green in there. So do I think they've improved the offensive line as a whole? The answer to that would be maybe. But I think they've improved the depth. The backup offensive line this year is better than the backup offensive line last year, which might not be saying much. Tight end. Tight end room is relatively the same this year. You have Dalton Schultz coming off a disappointing 2024. You have Cade Stover, who looked good in offseason activities. And then you have Brevin Jordan coming back. Last year, you had games where Irv Smith was active. He's still there. He's still a body that they have. And you drafted Lachey. So I would say the tight end depth is better just because of the improvement of Cade Stover and the fact that Brevin Jordan, for now, is a part of things. Stay tuned with that because that's been kind of an issue as well. Then we go to one of the more polarizing positions, especially on this stream and especially during the duration of me covering the team the last few years, and that's the running back. If you look at the non-Joe Mixon yardage last year at running back, the Texans had 598 yards on 121 carries and a 4.9 yards per carry with 3 touchdowns. Now, on the surface, that doesn't look bad, but you heard Jared Patterson talk about this earlier this week on Texans radio, and I think he was kind of mentioning how misleading their stats were because 2 of those carries, it was kind of Adrien Peterson mop-up duty type of runs, but 2 of those carries combined for 142 yards. And if you take that away, the yards per carry, if you take those carries away, and Cody Stutes is the one that's more into this, to take the carries away. But when I heard Jared Patterson say it, I thought it was pretty good perspective because he's the one saying it. But it also kind of backs up what I'm saying. And let's be honest, that's the way that we often use stats in this biz is you take the stats, you insert them when they back up what you're saying. It's no different than many walks of life. But the yards per carry, if you take away those 2, it goes down to 3.7. They need to be less Mixon dependent. We've talked about the CJ saves all butts life that they've been living and the life that they lived with Deshaun, where you depend on CJ Stroud and Deshaun Watson probably a little bit too much. They need to figure something out with the run game. And when you look at what they had last year, they didn't have much depth behind Mixon. They completely fell off a cliff when he got hurt. And that would naturally happen because Mixon's a really good back. But they're running it back with Damian Pierce. They're running it back with Dare Ogunbowale. And they've brought in Nick Chubb. And we don't know what Nick Chubb is going to be. They also drafted Marks. And we'll see what Marks looks like. But on the surface right now, I'm going to say the running back depth is about the same. And some may say, well, that's crazy. They drafted somebody. They got Nick Chubb. We don't know what Nick Chubb is. Nick Chubb averaged less yards per carry than the adjusted yards per carry of the backup backs last year for the Texans. We don't know what Woody Marks is going to be. We don't know what he's capable of. We'll see. And we do know what Dare Ogunbowale is. We also don't know how Joe Mixon's going to bounce back. It seems like he's kind of working out now. And we'll see. But if you listen to kind of some of the chatter, probably not the most healthy offseason for Joe Mixon when it came to whatever the hell he had, whatever he had on his foot. So I think the running back depth you can say is about the same. Running back depth and tight end depth is very meh on paper right now. Before we see what it looks like, it's very meh, very blah. The running back and tight end depth. Killa X God on the on the chat says that Papa John's in the locker room is a hell of a combo. See, I'm a Pizza Hut guy, man. Not look, different strokes for different folks. I'm just a Pizza Hut guy, man. Can't cheat on Pizza Hut. I respect the Papa John's. Not a big fan of the butter sauce. It can smack sometimes. He also, but we can agree on something. We agree on that high grade
marijuana called Kush on the streets.
But I'm more of a Pizza Hut guy, man. Meat lovers, Pizza Hut. Stuffed crust or thin crust. That's what I go. I'm Pizza Hut dude. Are there any Domino's people out there anymore? I kind of feel like Domino's fell off. They had that 555 the same time that Subway had that $5 footlong. And I feel like ever since the end of that, was that like 0405? Just haven't been the same. So I'm more of a Pizza Hut dude. Big time. I'm a big Pizza Hut dude. For sure. I feel like OO is a bit. I like OO. He's a big listener, but he said Landry is not okay. We need to wait until they get to training camp. Okay. I feel like OO is trolling me. I feel like he's pulling like an Arnett. Because he says that all the time. We will see how it looks whenever they get there. Okay. We don't know. But he's always on he's always on the stream. So I respect OO. I think you're trolling me. I don't think you're being serious when you say that. Obviously we'll see, my friend. There's no doubt. Eric says he messes with Domino's. I mean, I'll eat any of it if it's there. HDAV Traveler going Marcos. Marcos has the cauliflower crust. They've done a pretty good job of kind of blowing up. It seems like they're doing a decent job. I don't really get down with the Marcos, man. I gotta go with the Pizza Hut. But I can respect Marcos a little bit. It's not really in my rotation though. I don't really have a rotation. It's Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut. Give me that Pizza Hut. That's where I'm going. But different strokes for different folks. If the Texans running back depth was a pizza, what would it be? This is a June question. Man. The Texans running back depth or a pizza, what pizza chain would it be? Damn. They're Domino's, man. Like it's hit or miss. Used to be a lot better than it currently looks. Give or take a few years. And it's not gonna be elite, but it could be solid best case scenario, depending on where you get it from. So the Texans depth at running back, it's Domino's. Just a little Domino's pie. Original crust, all that. Killer God says Little Caesars. Golly. Little Caesars hot and ready can go in, though. Frank Z says Pizza Patron. Come on, bro. Are those still around? Is Pizza Patron still doing its thing? St. P says CC's. Hey. Used to F up some CC's back in the day. Used to F up some CC's back in the day. Mike, you're a moron. I was conceived in the bathroom of a Pizza Hut in McKinney, Texas. God. Yeah, CC's fell off. CC's fell off. Cebu says he might get into some leftover Chinese food. I'm getting hungry. Leftover Chinese food slaps. I'm eating some Chinese food tomorrow. Best Chinese place in Houston, baby. I'm eating some of that for lunch. Can't wait. It's going to be nice. Double Dave's is the best buffet in the game. Everybody knows that. No doubt. One of the hidden gems. More or less this year compared to last, wide receiver depth. Now, when we talk about the wide receivers, it's kind of like there's there's two ways that you can approach the conversation. You can approach it with the outlook that we had about the wide receiver group a year from today. And you kind of have to like take your mind back and forget everything that happened. You have to forget that Stephon Diggs got hurt. You have to forget that Tank Dell got hurt. And before that, he was kind of a non-factor more times than not in games. You have to forget that Nico Collins got hurt. And then you have to also kind of pretend that you still have optimism about that wide receiver group. Or you can look at what they were, which happened relatively early in the season, and you can say they obviously didn't have a lot of depth once Diggs went down. It was kind of apparent. They didn't have a lot of depth. Hutchinson and Mechie for the second straight year, they were unable to step up for whatever reason whenever they were given the opportunity. And outside of that, it was just a bunch of blah, and guys weren't getting open. I think this year you can make a case that the wide receiver, there is more depth. Now, we haven't seen Higgins and we haven't seen Knoll play a relevant snap. I feel safe in saying that, assuming those guys are your 3 and 4, that they will look better than Dell did before the Kansas City game and Mechie or Hutchinson did before that. Tank was a non-factor. I know that's not, maybe he was starting to find his groove in the Kansas City game, and that was the first time I really saw him look like him. But he had some duds. I mean, and that was very well documented before. I think Knoll and Higgins, they're going to be able to produce a little bit. And maybe it had to do with the injury that Tank was dealing with. And he was kind of finally starting to find his groove in Kansas City, and he damn sure did. He looked good before the injury. But before the Kansas City game, when he had the 6 for 98, including the touchdown, he had a 2-catch game. He had a 1-catch game. He had a catchless game. And then he had a game where he had 1 catch for -3. He had another one for 3, but he had 72 in that. He had 4 for 35. Game against the Jets, he was good. That they lost on Halloween. But outside of that, we didn't see much from Tank. And we still haven't seen anything from Mechie, and we still haven't seen anything from Hutchinson. So I think the wide receiver depth is better. Do you feel as good about how you felt about the top 3 as last year? I don't know. I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about Nico Collins. I feel pretty good about Christian Kirk. And then the fact that they were able to get the 2 rookie wide receivers like they did, I think that kind of eases the burden. Whichever one's going is going. So I think the wide receiver depth is better. It's 100% better. At the top, we'll see. But I think it's better. So on offense, meh tight end depth, meh running back depth, better offensive line depth, and better wide receiver depth. So the answer to the question halfway through when it comes to improving the depth is yes, I would say they did improve the depth on the offensive side of the ball around CJ Stroud. Now, obviously, the guys in front of him are going to determine this. And the depth does not necessarily mean that the guys at the top of the depth chart are going to be good. But that will obviously decide it. We all know, though, that the straw that's going to stir the drink for this squad is the defense. And the defense is going to be one of the better defenses in the NFL. So let's look at the depth, and we're gonna divide this into 3. We're not going to go safeties and corners. We're gonna combine and just say DB and break it all down. So do they have more or less depth at DB this year than they did last year? I would say at cornerback, it's probably more, but it's still not great. You have Lassiter 1 year improved, and I think he's a better number 2 corner at this point than he was last year. Derek Stingley's still Derek Stingley. I don't know if Damon Arnett makes the team, even though we've talked about him a little bit. Jalen Smith, we'll see what that looks like and how he does. But the corner depth is a little bit better, but it's not great. Safety depth. Safety depth is pretty strong. And you brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy Ward. I know Jimmy Ward's attorney just put out a statement to Aaron Wilson. KPRC had it. And it said, we just asked that the public reserve judgment so that we can show everyone that the Jimmy Ward they all know is the same person and did not do this. So there's some pushback on that. And there's a lot of whispers about the Jimmy Ward situation and what did or didn't happen. But even without Jimmy Ward, C.J. Gardner-Johnson had a better year than Jimmy last year. They were both top 20 PFF safeties. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson had the better year. He was one of the better cover safeties in the league. So you improved in that area when it comes to the starter. Jalen Petrie, familiarity with that role. He's kind of the hybrid between the nickel corner and the safety. I don't know that he gets better this year than last. I do feel like there's going to be more desire by opponents to try to get him in coverage. I think a lot of offensive coordinators last year left some meat on the bone when it came to taking advantage of Jalen Petrie in coverage. But he's solid in the role, and we'll see what that looks like. So that's that. If you had Jimmy Ward, I think the depth at safety would be elite. And they love MJ Stewart. They can't quit him. I think it would be beyond elite. But you still improve the depth at safety and corner, and it's still not great. I think the biggest takeaway from this exercise, and I like doing these mind exercises with y'all at night, especially during slow times like June, is the Texans really didn't have a lot of depth last year. I mean, they were able to make the playoffs, but from a roster standpoint, there wasn't a lot of depth. And it's definitely improved. There's still possibility. Like there's some things that you can dismiss heading into the season, even if it might come across as a little bit premature, but there's something you can dismiss. I'm not dismissing the possibility of the development of depth. We're just talking about what we've seen, what we know on paper. Obviously, it's a fluid process. It's Nick Caserio's favorite word. I love the word too. Okay, I won't put that all on Nick. That's me and Nick. That's not all Nick. Not all you, Nick. Nick, and me. But I think that there's a possibility that the depth does improve. But if you do have Jimmy Ward, and we don't know if they will or not, but if you did have Jimmy Ward, I think it's as deep of a safety group as I can recall. Probably the deepest in franchise history, honestly, because he's a hell of a reserve safety. But we'll see how they play that out, how that goes. But it could happen. We don't know. Could happen. We know that's DeMeco's guy. The D-line. The D-line. You brought in a lot of guys. There's some whispers about some of these guys that were already here developing. Solomon Byrd getting a lot of love. He is the OTA MVP, Solomon Byrd. Look out for Solomon Byrd. I'll believe it when I see it. But you hope that Autry can get back. You signed Darrell Taylor, who I like. Edwards is back. Settle is back. Rankins is back from 2 years ago. Your D-line depth is better because you did add Rankins. It's kind of the same overall, but you did add Rankins. And your D-line depth, you got Barnett back, the man of few words but many actions. And you've improved that depth. I mean, they invested a hell of a lot on the D-line this offseason. And Daniil Hunter somehow put on 10 pounds of muscle or whatever the hell that was. I don't know how that happened, but he did. And Will Anderson's big too. They've been lifting. They've been getting stronger. That edge duo is going to be nasty.
Every day it's just me and a pile of iron.
And they're going to be able to stop the run. So I'd say the DL depth definitely has improved. And I think Will Anderson gets better too, along with last year. So the D-line depth has improved. A lot of positive here when it comes to the depth. Then we go to the linebackers. And the linebackers last year, Frank says, Nick. There's a lot of Nicks on this team. We talk about Jalen's and stuff. There's a Nick Chubb, there's a Nick Caserio, and there's a Nick Caley. All NCs too. How about that? NC. How about that? Nico Collins, although he's not Nick, but his you know what Nico Collins' real name is? Do y'all know that? Do y'all know his real name? Y'all probably do, right? His real name is Dominique, but he goes by Nico. That's his government, is Dominique. But at the linebackers, last year, this was kind of an area of concern. Now, last year, we were hyping up Christian Harris as kind of the breakout player. Quite frankly, we should have been. And quite frankly, there's nothing that actually happened on the field except his absence that makes you think any less of Christian Harris when he's good to go, which DeMeco says he will be good to go. So maybe the stock has dropped a little bit because out of sight, out of mind. But he's going to be playing for his football life. He's going to be playing for a contract. I'm buying the Christian Harris stock. I'm very high on Christian Harris. I'm going to drop a video on Sunday, and I'm going to talk about the top 5 guys that I think have benefited the most from this offseason. He's going to be on the list. He didn't even step on the field. That's how high I am on Christian Harris. So you have Christian Harris. You still have Azeez Al-Shire. We'll see what that looks like. That could go either way from year to year. You never know at that age, that position. And especially the tape that he put out of coverage. That might be something the teams try to take advantage of as well. And then you have Henry To'oTo'o, who really came into his own last year and performed at a really good level. And then you have a bunch of reserve guys. I think it's better. I think the linebacker depth is better. So for all the talk about the upper end situation when it comes to how the wide receivers are going to produce at the top, how the offensive line is going to produce at the top, and all that. And that's really what's going to matter the most. Like, depth is cool, but you're going to have to have your top guys perform at a good level. They've done a pretty effing good job of improving the depth of this squad. The depth is solid. And the other thing that they are pretty decent at, they are really good at finding guys during camp and perhaps bringing them in to be potential contributors. I think the Texans have done a really good job of adding depth to this squad. And that was a problem last year. I think it's intriguing. I think the most intriguing areas are wide receiver. And the craziest thing about wide receiver is, and we've said this a couple of times, you pretty much know who's going to be on the roster 1 through 6. You have a pretty good idea of that. At least I think. Running back could go a number of ways. Tight end, have a pretty good idea. Offensive line, we don't know what the shuffle is going to look like. But the wide receiver position, very intriguing. They've done a good job of depth. So salute to Nick Caserio. Credit where credit is due to answer the question that we were originally asked when this stream started after that NBA Finals game. Have the Texans improved their depth? I'd say the answer is yes. I would say they have definitely improved their depth for sure. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about the teams that the Texans are going to be chasing in the AFC. And I was kind of wondering, like, are these teams stale? Because a lot of times you get teams and they're kind of just, you wonder what those teams are going to look like. Is anything going to change? What could be some significant changes? A lot of times, like when the Patriots were in their heyday and Caserio was Belichick's assistant or whatever, they had their core guys, but there would always be like that random guy who would just step up throughout the season. I think that was a big reason why the Patriots were able to sustain success. Obviously, they had their core nucleus, but there would always be like random guys that would just step up and emerge as stars and make significant impacts when it mattered most, usually in December, around playoff time. And I'm looking at the teams that the Texans are chasing. And I'm looking at the Broncos. Not chasing. They're in the group with. So they're tearing up. So where the Texans are, they're second tier or whatever in the AFC and up. I'm looking at the Chargers. I'm looking at the Broncos. I'm looking at the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Bills. And the Chiefs, obviously. And I think the AFC West is interesting because I think the wide receivers in that division are nothing to completely just browse over. And I think Ladd McConkey this year could end up being an all-pro caliber type of guy. And we already saw him produce last year. It was pretty impressive. But I think Ladd McConkey could be one of those guys that just completely cranks it up a notch and elevates himself to, I don't know, top 10 wide receiver in the league. Wouldn't shock me. But where the real fear is, there's a couple of other moves that were made in the AFC West that I think we need to be aware of. And one of them is someone that we've been pretty familiar with. He was top 4 in catches not too long ago in the league. He was only behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyreek Hill. That was it. I think that was the list. And that was Evan Ingram, who was kind of the security blanket for Trevor Lawrence. Sean Payton's really good with tight ends. Bo Nix is a very, very mobile quarterback who likes to throw that intermediate stuff on top of being pretty underrated at taking shots down the field as well. I think Evan Ingram might be someone that impacts the Texans tier. And the Chiefs, the good thing about the Chiefs, and it's kind of New England-y, they know how to win playing different styles. It's not Mike Tyson, it's not Floyd Mayweather. And those are all-time greats. But for the most part, there was one style, there was a specific style of fight that those guys wanted to execute. Mike Tyson wanted to knock your ass out early. Floyd Mayweather wanted to go the distance. Kansas City can play any style. And I think this year we need to keep an eye on what that offense looks like, because I think with Rice coming back and with Xavier Worthy in year 2, we need to be very aware of what Kansas City is. I think this could be one of those years where Patrick Mahomes is not only the undisputed best player in the league, because we kind of accept that even when Lamar's winning MVP and when Josh Allen's winning MVP, but I think he might light it up. I think we might see a different type of Kansas City where that speed starts to come into play and we see what the hell they're about. And it's going to be still one of the better teams in the league, but it's going to look different. That's a hell of a division, though, that Kansas City's in. But I do think, like, when we talk about that tier, I think that's going to be those Kansas City receivers. Let's keep a close eye on them. And we saw the Ravens the other day. They brought in Alexander. You already know what Baltimore is. They own DeMeco Ryans. John Harbaugh owns him. And Lamar Jackson owns CJ Stroud. And they are completely unable to do anything with them. So we expect Baltimore to be good. Will Derrick Henry be able to do what he did last year? I would say no, but I don't think anyone in their right mind saw him doing what he did last year. So I don't want to dismiss what Derrick Henry can do next year. And then Cincinnati, it's really going to be about the defense. The offense is straight. There's nothing really that they've added on offense that is just overwhelming. It's all about the defense. And then Buffalo, we'll see how Coleman looks in year 2. I think Xavier Worthy is kind of destined for I mean, he's gonna light it up this year. I don't know about Coleman. We'll see what happens with Coleman. The Derrick Henry thing, I see someone saying don't draft him in the first round. I would not do that either. That's one of those where I want someone else to take him. I want someone else to take Derrick Henry in fantasy. I'm sorry. And if it doesn't work out, charge it to the game. Charge it to the game, and I'll just salute with Derrick Henry. By the way, speaking of that, one of the trending stories today, speaking of super freak running backs, Adrien Peterson getting in a fight in a damn poker hall. And I saw a lot of people thought it was funny, and damn, Adrien Peterson's. That stuff's sad to me. I'm not sitting here like on my moral high horse saying that I'm like heartbroken by it. But man, to see Adrien Peterson at this point in life, the legend, like when Adrien Peterson kind of burst onto the scene, it was kind of like a word of mouth type of era. I know that a lot of you young cats can't really relate to this, but this was a time where it was kind of word of mouth. And YouTube highlights were just kind of becoming a thing. And you would look at the YouTube highlights, not on your phone. You had to gather around the computer. And typically it was a bunch of guys watching it, and you were watching the highlights and all that type of stuff. And there was the Texas football magazine, and you didn't know where he was going to go. I remember watching him, Texas OU, just beat that ass. And then he lost one, though. But neither here nor there. But that dude was a legend. And that dude made enough money to where he should not be. And I know he's broke now. And I know stuff went down. And there was always the story with his pops going to watch him and getting out and all that. But man, to see Adrien Peterson at this point in a damn low-level poker room fighting an average Joe is sad. That is absolutely sad to see. I'm not amused by it. There are some things that I might be amused by. That sucks. That sucks. Adrien Peterson was that dude. And now he's fighting average Joes in a damn poker room. Terrible. Just terrible. Not great. I remember watching him at Texas. Ooh, that first one, very good. Now he's throwing hands, man. That's just, and he's fighting some dude that, man. Other thing is, he didn't even whoop his ass as bad as Adrien Peterson should be able to whoop someone's ass. That was the craziest thing. He wasn't even beating his ass that bad. Sucks. Absolute legend. The highlights. I remember the first real elite highlight tape was that Noel Devine. That Noel Devine was elite. The Noel Devine highlight tape. Ooh, and that Sam McGuffey. Some of you H-Town folks know about that. Man. That was nice. Jay Burrow, an SNL guy. Shout out to you, my friend. I don't know where this is going. I just see SNL with Stutes. So this could go a number of ways. We will blind read this one. SNL with Stutes. Coke tastes better at McDonald's because of temperature and carbonation. McDonald's has a special filter. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but for some reason, McDonald's just jams with the sodas. It's like cocaine. Hell of a drug, them sodas. By the way, after SNL today, I got to confess something. Watch this. These are my confessions. Went to Five Guys. Cody dogging Five Guys. I don't know if I'm just trying to disagree with Cody, but me and the fam went to Five Guys. Didn't hate it. Big fan. Now, something did happen at Five Guys. And I want you to tell me in the chat where this used to happen all the time. Very disappointed in Five Guys because the shake machine was broken. Shake machine was broken. Damn shame. The shake machine. Five Guys, the price is a little jacked up. I know they got a value meal now, which is great. But yeah, the price is jacked up. They do have the remix soda fountain though, which I think is elite. But man, that shake machine was gone. Shake machine was gone. Did I try Cody's bacon hack? The multiple bacon? I did not. Some of Cody's fast food hacks I get down with. Some of them are just too fat. Like some of them are just like, Cody, like, come on. What are we doing here? Like the no salt on the fries is elite. And then he would ask for the extra salt. That's good because they have to make it. The Jack in the Box tacos, no lettuce, smart. Because you get the fresh tacos. And those fresh tacos still hit like crazy. But let me get like 6 pieces of bacon on my burger from Five Guys. I mean, come on, dude. That's crazy. That's crazy. I still remember, and this is we always tell stories like with Cody when I was at my fattest. In other words, when he was at his fattest. I still remember the first time we had fast food together. This had to been like 08, 07. And been drinking. So he drove. This was before he really started drinking. This was around Macklin time. Yeah, I think this was after he started crying because the Texans didn't take Jeremy Macklin and they took Brian Cushing. But we went to Whataburger. We'd been eating all day. Eating, drinking. It was like a typical college football Saturday. If you ever had college football Saturday with me. So I used to go to, I had like like a business relationship, whatever, with where you could go get liquor. There's this place called Wayne's. And we would go to Wayne's. We would get a normal bottle, which is just a handle. I think it was pre-Tito's. So handle of whatever vodka. And then we would get you remember the big ass bottle of Grey Goose, like the long one? We get the big ass bottle of Grey Goose. We get the green bottle of Patron. We'd get the beer like in the other store. But the lady would only charge me for the one bottle. And then we would have to throw her like $20-$40 for the other two. So you were basically getting the big bottle of Goose and the Patron for $40. Anyway, we'd been doing all that. We went to Whataburger. Cody ordered. I'm not kidding. Cody ordered a triple meat, triple cheese, Whata size, with a Dr. Pepper, an extra large fry. And then I was like, I didn't even know that you ordered triple. Like triple wasn't on the menu at the time. And I just said, I'll just take a number 2 Whata size. And then he added a Just a Burger on top of that. And that was after we'd been eating at night. And I was like, damn, Cody, bringing it like that. Ask him about it. He'll tell you. My man was insane-o with it. He ordered the triple meat, triple cheese, and had to add a Just a Burger with the 2 fries and the Dr. Pepper. And I'm sure he can top that. Next time Cody's in the chat, just have him play When I Was at My Fattest. One of our favorite games to play. Like I used to go to Pizza Hut, I'd order a large pizza, and then on the way home, go to Taco Bell, get like some handhelds. Everybody's gone to McDonald's and gotten the McChicken and the double on the way home. You get that. DQ solid. DQ solid is just not, it's just not as consistent, but DQ goes in, man. DQ's off. DQ's underrated. I like Brahms. They don't have him in Houston though. Brahms is my favorite. They have him in Oklahoma whenever I go visit the wife, and they have him in D-Town. And they have him all the way like to Ennis. But DQ goes in. DQ's nice. Pretty solid. They always they bring it with the chicken. They're one of the few places who have steak fingers. Can't go wrong.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
Might not be as consistent, but DQ definitely gets slept on. And it's always in like small towns, but DQ there's nothing wrong with DQ. Sonic, man, I don't think Sonic's terrible. It's just not, it's not in the rotation. It's not in the rotation. Sonic, it has its place. It has its place. Just not great. But yeah, DQ goes in, man. DQ goes in. There ain't no doubt about that. Brahms goes extra hard. That Turtle Sunday, yeah, Sonic fell off for sure. Chicken fried steak sandwich from where? DQ or Sonic? I am sleeping on Sonic. I am. I'm not sleeping on it like John Mechie. Like I'm sleeping on John Mechie, but I am sleeping on Sonic. This is a fact. Ain't no doubt. Okay, DQ has a chicken fried steak thing. I'll peep that for sure. That's no doubt. Ja'Cory Davis says that he loved Taco Command. I've never gotten away from Taco Bell. Taco Bell is always gonna have a special place in my heart. And I'll say this: there's a lot of places that have fallen off. Taco Bell's remain strong. I don't know what they're doing with this chicken bit though, this chicken stuff that they're trying to do, but Taco Bell still goes in. I'm sorry. Taco Bell is the king of the variety. Like you want to throw in or something like that, they're always going to do it. They're always trying to do new stuff. Now it's not consistent. I'm not going to sit here and act like every Taco Bell is the same, but the one by my crib, solid. Haven't eaten it a lot. Whataburger fell off. I agree. I think In-N-Out's better now. I said it. I'd stick by it. I don't think it's solid anymore. Not great. Shout out to the Blizzards. Someone says they miss Taco Bell being cheap. Their value menu's all right. It's not terrible. They got the decent dollar. I don't know if you've been there lately. They got the decent one. It's not as cheap. Like the value meal will get you. You're going double digits for sure. But yeah, it is back when you could just throw like 7 things in the bag and get it for under 10. Yeah, that was what was up. I don't know what they do with that sour cream either, though, but Taco Bell's sour cream smacks. Smacks. Someone says Sonic's mozzarella sticks, Arby's mozzarella sticks. Trust me on that. You might not even know about Arby's cheese sticks with Arby's sauce and some ranch. Trust me, you're welcome. There we go. That's what we got. Taco Bell, fast food talk, in depth. Texans got a lot of depth. Some fast food places have depth as well. 59, 69, 79. Now that's a throwback, and that's a perfect way to end it with the Taco Bell. Man, that was sick, man. You had to, man. Arby's is always empty. Kind of sucks. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. All love, subscribe, like, ride along. Texans, congrats on the depth. And congrats to everyone who's been rolling along. I'm going to have videos dropping throughout the week next week. I'm going to Arizona. Perfect, by the way. I'm going to be in Flagstaff. I'm going to be on a resort. I'm trying to not drive myself nuts in June for the first time in probably like 15 years. Like overcompensating for the slow time. But I get to enjoy a nice little Game 7 on Sunday at the vacation. Might try to find me like a dive sports bar or just watch it at the resort. I don't know. I'm excited about that. Game 7 vacay. Maybe some of that. You already know. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, whether we're talking depth or fast food, we're all in it together. John McClain tomorrow at 10:30. I'm not going to tell y'all to be nice to him. Be however you want to be, but just be here.
Headlock, localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every